I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief of Pharma Forum. I'm at Reuters Pharma USA in Philadelphia, and I'm joined by Ligia Del Bianco at Biogen. What's your role at Biogen?
I lead patient advocacy and external communications at Biogen.
And welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Jonah, for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your role in patient advocacy and why that's important for Biogen.
Yeah, so patient advocacy is all about building and nurturing relationships and partnerships with the patient advocacy groups. And what we're trying to achieve is improved outcomes for the patients. So part of the work is to really listen, learn from them, understand the journey, understand what it is that they need, so that we can potentially help provide solutions.
And give me an example of an area Biogen works in where you're doing some efforts.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question in an interesting moment, Jonah, because Biogen has been a neurology company. And with that, we have a robust portfolio in multiple sclerosis. We have a drug in spinal muscular atrophy. So we've developed in different areas. We also have Alzheimer's disease. And we are working in depression as well. So when we think about patient advocacy, it's not just one patient, but it's a web, a community of people across therapeutic areas. And every area is so different. They all have their unique needs. They all have their unique aspirations. And so being in patient advocacy at a company like Biogen is a real privilege because we're in a position where we're really there to serve them. So we're there to understand what it is that can make their outcomes better.
So what are you here at the show to talk about?
I just walked out, actually, Jonah, of my presentation. It was a really nice mix of people. So you had two industry people, one of them being myself, and then you had two patient advocates. So people who have been diagnosed with a disease, have lived through receiving a diagnosis, and are on the other side, are doing a lot better. The topic of the discussion was health literacy. So I'll start by saying health literacy is not literacy. Literacy means the ability to read and write. Health literacy is different. Health literacy means, are you able to find, are you able to use and understand the information well enough so that you can then proceed to making a decision or taking an action. So you could be a great writer, a fantastic reader, but you might have a hard time digesting medical information. In fact, the CDC, according to the CDC, 9 out of 10 Americans have challenges with health literacy. And I would be remiss to say I have been one of them. So even working in the industry, even working in advocacy, I've been in the situation where I've received information from doctors or read things on websites and went, I don't quite understand. It's not simple enough. It would be so helpful for someone to walk me through this. And that's what we're trying to achieve with health literacy. How do we make this information simpler, more digestible, where not just the patient, a lot of times the caregiver, or the family member is able to say, I get it. This is hard, but I understand enough of it to decide what my next step should be.
So, last question, I guess. You've been here a little bit. What have you seen at the conference that's been interesting to you? What are some of the big trends you're thinking about right now in your space?
So much. So I actually, biased, I stayed through the entire section on health equity and health literacy. So a number of things that I heard. One is that if you have low health literacy, it has a direct impact on a few very important things. Number one, increased ER visits, increased hospital stays, uh, increased mortality rate, and less likely to follow uh, uh, therapy adherence.
Of course.
If you can't understand why it is you're taking something or why you should keep taking it, you're less likely to do so. So real impacts. I heard a few anecdotes that did not come from me, but came from the sessions that I thought were really interesting. Someone said, and this was one of the patient advocates, she said, wouldn't it be great to have a patient sit in the boardroom so that their insights are heard by top leaders? So I thought that was something noteworthy. The other insight that I thought was really interesting from Pharma USA was how a person who is struggling with health literacy, how that onus falls on the person and not on the healthcare system. When in reality, the issue is it's just too complex for someone without a PhD to understand. So I thought that was really interesting because there's some stigma and there's some shame associated with, I can't decipher this, or it's too complicated for me. When really the answer is yes, it is, but that's not for you to be solving.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was an interesting insight. And lastly, I also heard about specifically congresses and scientific publications, and how the speaker was saying, we have a problem. We are putting out, the speaker said, industry is putting out a lot of technical information. So we actually do have the ability to, from the source, make sure that that's plainer, that that's easier to understand. And so kind of putting out that information is a part of that puzzle in how we can help with health literacy.
Right. Any other final thoughts?
Yes. I would end by reminding everyone of the 3 principles of health literacy, which are the ability to 1, find, 2, understand, and 3, and most important, use information to make health-related decisions. If you can't first find it, then you can't even action or even have a chance to understand it. If you find it but you can't understand it, you're not empowered to make an informed decision. So those 3 principles are really important and linked to each other. And at the end of the day are we helping patients, families, caregivers action on health-related information?
Got it. Because of course, the flip side of those 3 is: are we helping them find it? Are we making sure it's understandable? And are we making sure that it's useful and actionable? Right.
Correct.
Great. Thank you so much, Ligia. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Jonah.